So it's good to be here. I feel like I'm home. Some of you don't know me, but I used to come to church here when I lived in Forbes from 2000 to 2007. 2006. 2007 and 8 I went to Bible college, and since then I've been with Africa Inland Mission. And the last few years I've been in Uganda, and specifically in the area of Karamoja. Karamoja is where the Karamojong people group are found, mostly. And they're an unreached people group, so it means that the number of Christians among the Karamojong is less than 2%. And there's a few other things to the definition of unreached, but generally the Karamojong are out in the villages and the churches are in the towns. There are some Karamojong in the towns, but there's also a lot of others who come from different tribes, different parts of Uganda, different parts of Kenya, other places. And so a lot of the churches are mostly not Karamojong people, and they're all generally centred in the town. We're in Moroto, and the other towns, Katito and Kabong, and other more significant towns is where the churches generally are. But the majority of the Karamojong live out in villages. If we can have the next slide. So just a little on Uganda. This is a picture of the president and the flag. It gained its independence from Britain in 1962, and this president has been in since 1986. If we have the next slide. So these are two maps of Uganda. The one on the left just shows the surrounding countries: South Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The pink area on the one on the right, that is Karamoja, and about halfway up is Moroto, where we're situated. If I can have the next slide. So this is rough translation for the word Karamojong. It means the old men who can walk no further. So the Karamojong came down from Ethiopia, and a number of different ones split off into South Sudan and Kenya, but the Karamojong came to Uganda, to this northeast section of Uganda, and when they got there they stopped, and then there was a group of younger people who said, let's keep going, and the older men said, no, if you go there we'll never see you again and you'll die. And the young one said, we're going to keep going. So they kept going. They became the Teso and are a neighbouring people group to the Karamojong. But the Karamojong settled there. They mostly herd their cattle, but they stayed in that region. And I guess there was not just old people, because they continued on to today. But if I can have the next slide. This is a quote from the first Prime Minister: we shall not wait for Karamoja to develop. So this is the kind of villages that you'll find among the Karamojong, and the rest of Uganda have developed this attitude. Even the president today, he still continues to make these kinds of statements, that we're not going to wait for the Karamojong to catch up to the rest of us. So a lot of the Karamojong people are living in their traditional housing. They traditionally herded cattle and drank milk and blood from the cattle. Less so nowadays, but it's still a part of life in the villages. If I can have the next slide. So I've just got some prayer points. the area where we are, there is some development there, but the main thing that we want to see developed is people hearing the gospel and being able to have the choice whether they follow Jesus. And so we're encouraging the churches to reach out of Moroto and into the villages where the Karamojong people, the majority of them are. So the churches that are in Uganda, the East African revival came more to the western part of Uganda, and quite a few places they have strong Christian churches, but there's also been some teaching that's come into the churches that is either unbiblical or just unhelpful, and so that's reflected a bit in the churches that are in Moroto and the other towns in Karamoja. We pray for the strengthening of the churches. For those churches that do have strong Christians within their churches, we just need to pray that they'll send missionaries. Traditionally, they have the idea that missionaries are people like me who come from the West and come to Africa, but that's starting to change. So some of our team are actually Ugandan and Kenyan missionaries and Rwandan. It is starting to happen, but the churches are a little slow in realising we can actually send missionaries. Health standards are not so good. They are there, health services are there, but they could be better, and a lot of people don't necessarily see that going to the hospital is going to help. So some people leave it till too late, and then it's very hard for the people in the hospitals to help. But also they're struggling with equipment and people with skills and training. So they do a good job, but it could be better. If I can have the next slide. This is a picture you might be able to see in the background. It's a bit small, but there's a cow that has been sacrificed in the background behind this group of people. And their traditional religion, they sacrifice cows or goats. They have an idea of God that he's somehow God and Satan combined. That's how they see God, and they see God as removed and not really interested in our daily life. So in time, as things happen, maybe there's a tree, a hill, a river, some significant place, and something unusual happens there, and they can't explain it. They'll attribute it to the work of a god or a spirit, and so they build shrines there, and that's where they make these sacrifices. They are involved with witchcraft and having witch doctors. They will go to the witch doctor instead of going to the hospital. They'll go to the witch doctor if they have a problem with someone. They'll go to the witch doctor before they go raiding. So they have that as part of their life. There's also a lot of drunkenness and violence. A lot of their food, they grow sorghum, but then they make it into beer, and it disappears very quickly. But it's not particularly helpful to society. But for them, they call it the sorghum beer. They call it their tea, their chai, and also their food. So the other thing I mentioned, cattle raiding, it's quite prevalent. Some years it's not been so much, but then it resurges and continues. And the Karamojong, neighbouring Turkana from Kenya, one's from South Sudan, between different clans of the Karamojong. They're all raiding backwards and forwards. And a lot of people get killed from the raiding. So it's not particularly helpful. People have their animals and they get stolen. Maybe they get them back, maybe they don't. But also lives are lost in the raiding. So there's some things to pray for peace from the raiding, and that people would turn from their traditional religion and know who God is and put their faith in Jesus. If I can just have the next slide, just some prayer requests for me. I'm here until the 13th of May. I fly back to Uganda, so just for refreshment and rest while I'm home. For wisdom as I go back, what the next 2.5 years will be as I am involved in ministry there. And the church I go to is EPTA, Elohim Power Transforming Africa. We're not quite sure where the name came from, but it's a small church and mostly Karamojong people. So if you can pray for the church. Nita is a village I was visiting, and Nakapilam are singular areas in Moroto where I visit, and where I've gotten to know people. And then also we're working with the pastors and church leaders, so once a month we get together with them. So pray for our work with them. And then I've had a few health issues, particularly migraines and arthritis, that have been difficult over the last couple of years. So if you're praying for me, they're good things to pray for. Pray for my team. We call it Camp Karamoja Missionary Partnership. Language learning and the provision of a new vehicle. The one I have is old and showing its age and needing repairs more often than I would like. So when I go back, I'll need to replace that vehicle that I have. So at the moment, AIM has started a car fund for anyone who wants to contribute can contribute to that, as long as if you send anything to AIM, you mark it as for Nita's vehicle. But probably these language learning, that is a big prayer point because I'm really struggling in learning language. And the health issues and the vehicle, they're things I would really appreciate prayer for. Oh, I have a postcard here. This is from Nasur. She's my language teacher, and she also does a lot with us translating in Bible studies, and she's wanted to write to the church here. Hi, Church of Nita, it's me, Nasur, writing this letter to you. Happy New Year for everyone. Our God is truly wonderful. When he came as Emmanuel, meaning God with us, he did not live in wealth and success. He experienced the deepest possible human struggles, and he understands us. To send Nita to give us food for eternal life. Thanks to send Nita to Uganda. Thanks, yours, Nasur. So I just wanted to share that. She's someone who has a lot of struggles. She doesn't have an easy life, but she's put her faith in God. And so I thought that was good just to share with you her thanks to the churches here that have sent me to there in Uganda. One last thing, I put some things on the back table. There's some picture books, there's some material you can take away from Africa Inland Mission. If you want to get newsletters, you can put your name and email or a postal address. So if you want to keep up with my newsletters, which hopefully I will send more regularly, it'd be okay to sign up for that. And I think that's everything.